I discovered some shocking gaps between what retirees expect in retirement versus what actually happens. So if you're planning to retire in the next 5 to 10 years, this information could completely change how you prepare. And if you're already retired, this video will help make sure that you don't make some of these most common mistakes. Here's a 30-second preview so you can decide if you want to watch the rest of this video. Number one, 56% of Americans retired sooner than they had planned, and I'll go over reasons why. Number two, that alone caused those retirees to have to change their retirement income plan pretty significantly. It also caused many retirees to take Social Security and make a Social Security timing mistake that really cost them tens of thousands of dollars. And then we're also going to look at what actually happens when it comes to spending and expenses in retirement. Then I'll give you the plan to follow so that you're better prepared so that you can make retirement the best stage of life yet. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Dave Zoller, and I've got a retirement planning firm and a tax planning firm. And my team and I, we've been helping people retire for the last 16 years. And if you're thinking about your retirement more than ever, then this channel is dedicated to you. Now let's get into the study. This is over 72 pages, but I found the 5 most important findings that's going to make the biggest impact for you, so that hopefully we can end up like this happy couple walking through the jungle of Costa Rica saying, hey, that monkey's laughing at me. Okay, here's the biggest shock. Most people believe they'll control when they retire, but the research shows that's simply not true. Here's the reality. 56% of current retirees retired sooner than they had planned. Now, you might think, well, maybe they just saved enough money and they decided to retire earlier. That would be nice. But the truth is only 17% of those who retired early did so because they could afford it. So what forced everyone else into retirement? 45% retired early due to health issues, physical limitations, disability, or illness. 42% retired due to employment issues. So that's job loss or company changes or being pushed out. These aren't choices. These are circumstances beyond their control. Meanwhile, current workers planning for retirement expect to retire at age 67, but actual retirees, they retired at age 62. That's a 5-year gap between expectation and reality. Here's why this matters. If you're forced to retire 5 years earlier than you planned, you miss out on 5 years of earnings and savings. Plus, if you claim Social Security at age 62 instead of the full retirement age, you're looking at a 20 to 30% permanent reduction in benefits. The lesson here isn't to be pessimistic. It's just to be prepared for multiple scenarios. Don't just plan for your ideal retirement at the age that you choose. Really ask yourself and model out in your plan, what if I did have to retire at 62 or at whatever age? What if my company does downsize because of AI or other reasons? What if health issues force me out of work? If you model these in your plan, it might seem kind of scary when you look at them the first time, but it's always better to be prepared than to scramble to repair your plan. Now let's talk about how you think that you'll transition into retirement versus what has actually happened. So for many, the ideal phased retirement where they can lower responsibilities a little bit and lower their time at work without having to go completely cold turkey, that's an ideal for a lot of people. And actually 44% of workers, they do envision this gradual transition. And they imagine reducing work hours and maybe taking consulting roles or finding less demanding work that brings still personal satisfaction. And we've seen it firsthand that it's nice to ease into retirement and maintain some income and stay engaged. But here's the reality that really happens to current retirees. 41% immediately stopped working when they retired. No gradual transition, no easing into it. It's really just done. And then another 26% worked as long as possible until they physically couldn't work anymore. But only 13% actually experienced that gradual transition that nearly half of current workers wish that they could have. The disconnect tells something important, that external forces often dictate how we leave the workforce. Companies don't always offer part-time positions to their older workers, and health issues don't wait for convenient timing. And then economic downturns, they don't care about your transition plans. And here's another reality check, and that is 34% of workers expect to work in some capacity during retirement, but only 5% of actual retirees are doing any paid work. And that gap between expectation and reality is pretty wide. Now, I've got a few more important findings from this study to share with you, but I want to pause for a second. This isn't again, I just want to remind you, it's not about being pessimistic or doom and gloom. It's really just about understanding what real people actually experience in retirement, people who have done it already and have gone before us. Not the glossy magazine version that we see everywhere, but just reality. Because when you know what to expect, you can actually prepare for it. And being prepared is what gives you that confidence and that peace of mind. And so if you're finding this helpful so far, please do me a favor and just click the like button, because it helps YouTube recommend it to other people out there who are planning their retirement so that they can prepare well too. So let's get into the next thing and look at what happens, really what happened during the pandemic that's important to remember even right now. So the study shows that 22% of current retirees left the workforce during the pandemic. And the thing that forced them out was either being overworked or exhausted, or health risks, or family caregiving responsibilities. And you can see those down here. And this just goes to show how quickly external events can, really ones that we can't control, they can really accelerate our retirement decisions. The pandemic was a stress test for retirement, and many people found that their plans were inadequate at that time. So if you're thinking, the pandemic, that's rare. It's not going to happen again for however many years. Just remember that economic downturns or industry disruption or family emergencies, that happens pretty regularly. The point is not to fear the events, but just to build resilience into your retirement plan. Now let's talk about money, because this is where the rubber meets the road. Current workers approaching retirement have a median income of $87,000, but retirees, their median household income is $58,000. That's a 33% drop. But here's what's interesting. Despite the significant income reduction, 66% of retirees say that their standard of living has stayed the same. How is this possible? Well, it turns out that retirement expenses often decrease more than people expect. No more commuting costs, no more work clothes or eating out for lunch every day. Many retirees, they also have paid off their mortgages, so that often goes down in retirement. But this also means that they've adjusted their lifestyle and their expectations downward. So the question for you is, are you prepared to make that adjustment if you need to? Are you assuming that you're going to maintain the current lifestyle that you have on less income, or are you going to make some sort of adjustment? Now, another financial surprise in this study is related to emergency savings. Both current workers and retirees have a median emergency fund of about $10,000, and 17% of retirees have zero emergency savings. I'd actually be interested to hear from you if you're up for it. I think it would be nice to see, or just interesting to poll this community just watching right now with this question. Could you access $10,000 right now without going into debt? If you can, type EM yes into the comments, or if you don't think that you can, type in EM no. I'm going to guess that even the people close to retirement don't have a designated EM fund, but they may still have the assets available to use if an emergency expense comes up. That's what we've seen, but let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and get a gauge. Now, this next one is a big one, and it is 31% of current retirees. They started taking Social Security at age 62, the earliest possible age. And that ends up costing them 20 to 30% in permanent reduction in their benefits. You can see that right here. And then only 4% waited until age 70 to maximize their benefits. This means that most retirees are living on significantly less Social Security income than they could have received. And the reason they often take it early is because they were forced into retirement earlier than planned, bringing us back to that first point that we talked about when not total control over deciding when to retire. But the median age when retirees started collecting Social Security, that was 63. So if your plan right now, financial plan is saying you're going to work till 67 and then delay Social Security until 70, you'll just want to have a clear path for what happens if life forces your hand a little earlier and you have to retire earlier. So just mapping that out again. What if it was earlier than planned? Have a plan for what to do with Social Security. Now, the next one is probably the saddest one, in my opinion. And after I share it, I'll share 6 quick steps, just a 6-step roadmap to implement right now so that you're better prepared, which leads to less financial anxiety. But the 6th one is that 73% of both current workers and retirees are concerned about health in older age. And this isn't a made up worry, because so many of us have seen it firsthand, right? A friend or family member ready to enjoy the go-go years of retirement, and then a health concern just comes out of left field. And the biggest shock comes when the health concern causes increased long-term care costs. Most of the time, we don't see the big medical expenses come until the late 70s or 80s. But here's the problem from this report. Only 31% of retirees have any plan for long-term care. And this is actually on page 46 over here, where you can see the 31%. But 29% of retirees report that their health has declined since retiring. And this isn't surprising because health issues are often what force people into retirement in the first place. And here's the financial impact. 46% of retirees plan to rely on family and friends for long-term care. You can see that right here. And only 14% are confident that they can afford professional long-term care if needed. And this can create a burden on families and often leads to inadequate care from what we've seen. The average cost of a private room in a nursing home is over $100,000 per year. And that's just nationwide. It could be a lot more expensive in some of the big cities. Even assisted living averages $50,000 annually. So these costs can quickly deplete retirement savings. So what do we do about this? Here's the 6 steps. First, big picture, plan for flexibility, not rigidity. Instead of planning for one retirement scenario, prepare for 3. Ideal scenario, an early retirement scenario, and then an emergency scenario. And really, those are the first 3, but you can really do all sorts of what-if scenarios. But second, make sure you've got access to emergency funds that's not directly tied to the stock market. That $10,000 median emergency fund that we looked at isn't enough. I'd aim for 12 to 18 months of expenses, possibly in conservative assets. Maybe not the typical 3 to 6 months recommended for while you're working during your working years. But again, talk to a financial planner to see what makes sense for you there. And then third, inside your plan, look at the scenario for increased long-term care medical costs and what the impact will be. Can you self-insure? Will you rely on family, or should you explore long-term care insurance? Then fourth, maximize your Social Security by understanding your options here. But also have a backup plan if you can't delay claiming your benefit. Then fifth, think about health as an investment, not an expense. The better your health going into retirement, the more control you're going to have over your timing and your lifestyle. Then stress test your retirement plan. Ask yourself, what if I had to retire 5 years earlier? What if my spouse gets sick? What if I have there's another economic crisis? What if inflation increases more than expected? Our clients really love running multiple scenarios because it just makes the unknowable a little bit more feasible when it's brought to light. And it really increases their peace of mind. Because when you shine a light on these what ifs, they stop being this vague, scary, unknown, and they become more concrete in situations that you can actually plan for. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button so that I know that it was helpful, and then hopefully YouTube can spread it to other people. And if you want to dive deeper into making retirement your best stage of life yet, check out these videos here, and I'll see you over there. Take care.